So now that the Timeless Legacy bundle has been out for almost a week now, and I've had time to actually like dive deep into all of its contents and fully get an impression of it, I wanted to take the time to, give some final impressions on that, but also to talk about why I feel like Timeless Legacy fails to recapture the magic of the Heritage Starship bundle, which was the ship bundle released last summer. So the reception for Timeless Legacy has been kind of mid, in my opinion. The ships are okay, with the exception of Proxima. I feel like this one has been widely regarded as quite a bit of a disappointment in terms of a T6 ship, especially one that is from a previous game. The Proxima is originally from the video game Star Trek Legacy, and in Legacy, that thing was a freaking battleship. That thing was a big, heavily armed dreadnought type ship. It was, big, heavily armed. This was, the big beefy ship of its era in that game. And for it to be released with such underwhelming stats into Star Trek Online, I feel like a lot of players felt really disappointed about that, because like if you played Legacy, it's like I said, it's meant to be like big honking battleships. So instead here, Star Trek Online released it as a Miracle Worker Science Dreadnought, which still to me makes no sense at all. And it was a big disappointment. I feel like a lot of players were anticipating this being more of a, weapons-based build type. And while Miracle Worker does fit the weapons-based build layout that you would want for that sort of build type, Science Dreadnought certainly doesn't. You're missing a whole weapon slot there because it's a science ship, not a dreadnought or a tactical focus ship. So yeah, this one really felt like a letdown for a lot of people, I think. Its console was kind of cool. I still feel like it could use a bit of a bump up, but at the same time, it's not bad for a particular build type, which again is weird because it fits that energy weapon build type that I feel like a lot of players were anticipating from this thing, but it's still a science dreadnought, so you're not going to want to use that console on this thing at all. So yeah, I mean, that lack of synergy between Starship stats and console stats, or even Starship traits, as well. That lack of synergy across that kind of stuff is not an uncommon thing for Star Trek Online. They've done that plenty of times before. They're going to do it plenty of more times in the future as well, I'm sure. It's always frustrating to see. And then, of course, there was also the Warden and the Okinawa. The Warden, this was based off of a Star Trek Online original ship, the Ranger. They just took that ship, revamped the original skin, and then added 2 more skins to the ship to coincide with the theme of the full bundle, which is cool. I mean, if you like the old the Ranger class, I'm sure you'll be into those. The stats on this thing were okay. I still have issues about the mixing of 4/4 cruisers and temporal, but whatever. Now with this one, the console was not great, and also not well suited for a ship of its class. That definitely seemed like something that was meant to be more well suited to a science vessel, but also didn't perform that well altogether on an actual science build as well too. So it's just kind of like, what's the point of it? And then the Starship trait, that's quite the overperformer right now, and so much so that we know that's going to get tuned down, and we really can't say what that's going to look like in the future right now as of filming this. So hopefully, as I've said, hopefully it gets tuned down to an appropriate level, but not just nerfed into the ground, which is always a fear with this sort of situation in Star Trek Online. That's one thing I feel like really hurts the value of this ship right now in this moment, is just the uncertainty of how its accessories are going to perform in the future. And then there's the Okinawa, which stats wise, okay, like it's a pilot raider. Pilot raiders are amusing, but the double pilot seating does kind of hurt it. And really, that's something I do want to touch on further into this video, is why do they still feel the need to give these things double spec seating of their main spec? So like this one had double pilot, double temporal, double Miracle Worker. I mean, Heritage did too, and that's the other thing I want to talk about, is why is it so much of a bigger deal with this bundle than it was with Heritage? So we're going to dive into that too. But yeah, Okinawa, it's an okay ship, but it's largely just because it's a raider. It's got a bunch of universal seating on it, so you're going to be just fine in how you want to set this thing up. You're going to have a decent amount of flexibility there, but you're not going to be using double pilot raider. But you're not going to be using all of those pilot abilities with all that double pilot seating there. It's too much pilot seating. It becomes so much that it's redundant. So it's just like, what was the point there? Because it's too much. It's too much. No one's going to use that much pilot seating on this ship, especially with how flexible it is already. There was no point to it. The console on this thing actually isn't bad when you look at the potential of it, but the problem is that the two projectiles on it, they're so easily destroyed, so much so that they can literally destroy each other, which is a problem. But it's kind of a letdown when you press that fire button on the console, only for the effect to just not happen because it got destroyed by accident or intentionally by an enemy, which is that's no fun. What's the point? Why would I use that console when there's the risk of it just being blown out of the sky before it can do anything? That's not a fun mechanic. And then there was the Starship trait on this thing, which was nothing super interesting. It was just some basic buffs, which were super underwhelming. So I'm not even going to go further into that. Now let's go back and look at the Heritage Bundle ships. What was so different about these? So first we had the Achilles, which was from Star Trek Deep Space Nine Dominion Wars, the Typhon, which was originally from Star Trek Invasion, and the Premonition, which was originally from Star Trek Armada, which probably my favorite of the three. Now, like with the Timeless Legacy bundle, all three of these ships do still have double spec seating. So the Achilles was a American worker ship, so it does also have double American worker seating. Typhon was a command ship, so it has double command, and Premonition here was a temporal ship, so it had double temporal, which wasn't great. I remember us commenting that, yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but it still worked for these types of ships because the Achilles here is a heavy destroyer. It's well suited for weapons-focused builds, which is what American worker seating is often good for too, because you got like narrow sensor bands and mixed armament synergy. Those two abilities work well with that sort of build type. Meanwhile, there is nothing really well suited in the American worker seating that is well suited for science builds, which is why the double American worker is such a letdown on Proxima, which was a science vessel. Technically a science dreadnought, but you get what I mean. So while the double American worker seating was a letdown on Achilles, it wasn't exactly a deal breaker. You could still actually do a pretty good energy weapon build on this thing. The fact that this thing also came with a pretty decent console on it, the phalanx torpedoes, which do actually a pretty decent amount of damage just on their own, even on like a non-torpedo build, but they actually do really well on torpedo build. The only downside with those is the travel time is a little obnoxious, but you can still make those work. And then there's the real upside with this thing, which is the hexacannons, which are still like the most powerful experimental weapon in the game. So that's been the real selling point with the Achilles here. Typhon had double command seating, but the command seating fit the theme for this ship because Typhon is an escort carrier, which is to this date a unique type of carrier in the game. We haven't had any other escort carriers. What an escort carrier is basically it's built like an escort. Typhon in particular here has a 4-3 weapons layout, but instead of an experimental weapon, it has an extra hangar bay. So it has 2 total hangar bays instead of like a usual strike wing escort, which would only have 1 hangar bay. So this was a whole new type of ship, and one that a lot of people were really hyped about. Like carrier builds, they're still fairly popular. They were not great for a long time, but there's been a lot of stuff released over the past year or so that has really helped out carrier builds. And this ship went a long way to helping out with that, because not only was the ship a really great platform for a carrier build, but it also came with a really great starship trait for carrier builds, which was repurposed cargo bay hangars, which with that, you effectively get an additional hangar bay on top of your existing hangar bays, because every time you launched a hangar bay pet with it, you would gain an additional hangar bay pet in the form of an advanced level Valkyrie pet. Valkyrie Squadron pet, I should say. So it would max out at 6, so you would effectively have a 3rd hangar bay with that starship trait equipped. Now, the console on Typhon, not that great. Like it was thematically appropriate. It does the little like turtle fortress mode thing. It fires a bunch of turrets in every direction. The turrets weren't that powerful, which sucked, but it was thematically interesting for the build, but for the ship. But the main appeal there was the starship trait and just the type of ship that it is. Now, this thing does have double command seating, but command does work for a carrier build. Command does have a lot of abilities that are support type abilities, so they do help with the whole carrier theme. It's also really good offensively for torpedo builds, so this being a full command ship meant that this thing could be a solid torpedo build, along with having all of those hangar bay, all the hangar bay stuff as well. So this thing could end up being a very powerful ship as a double command ship. And then there's the Premonition, which was double temporal, kind of like the Warden, but this one was on a full science ship. And science seating does much better to benefit a full science ship than it does on a cruiser, even a science-focused multi-mission cruiser like the Warden is. You're still not going to do quite as well with that over there than you would with here. Because with temporal on any other sort of ship type, the only real advantage of it is that it's got 3 unconventional systems triggers, and you've got recursive shearing. Whereas on a science ship, you can also better utilize the entropy mechanic and some of the other exotic or anomaly abilities that you can use with temporal as well. So you have more options there for a science vessel than you do on just a standard cruiser. Because with a science ship, you're going to be able to better take advantage of those things because you've got stuff like a secondary deflector. Though, of course, either way, the big advantage is the uncon triggers, but still, you get more stuff you can play around with in temporal on a science ship than you do on any other type of ship. So premonition being a temporal spearhead really plays into that much better. And I remember complaining when this first came out that I think that I thought it should have been a temporal battle cruiser. And while I still do kind of maintain that thinking, it would still, if it were a battle cruiser, it would run into the same problem that the Warden had, which was you're not going to be benefiting all that much from the rest of that temporal seating. You're just going to be benefiting from the uncon triggers. It would be great as a temporal battle cruiser, more so if it had a different secondary seat, which is kind of true for all of the ships in the Timeless Legacy bundle, and still kind of true for these two, but these two made it work a lot better than the ships in the Timeless Legacy bundle. And I think that's been the big gripe with all of the ships in the Timeless Legacy bundle in comparison to the Heritage Starship bundle ships. Heritage, like their stats, while they weren't absolutely perfect, they came with some really cool stuff. Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to talk about the console off of Premonition, which was also a big plus for me, and the Gemini effect, which was an ability it had in Star Trek Armada, but they adapted it to Star Trek Online. It does some really cool stuff, and it summons into Enterprise Fs. They summon into 1, splits in 2, and then they function like pets. They attack things all around. They're actually really solidly good pets too, which is a very uncommon thing with pet consoles. The pets actually didn't suck, which I really wish is something that they would do more of. Fingers crossed there. But yeah, like that was the thing. All 3 of these ships came with something really cool that could support various different build types, and all 3 ships could stand up on their own as well with their own stats. You can't really say the same thing about Timeless Legacy. Proxima, crap stats. The only thing that really comes with it that's good is the console on it, which is okay. It's not as great as some other consoles out there, but even then, it's only going to work for a certain build type, which is an energy weapon broadside build, and that's not something you're going to want to put on a science dreadnought, even one with double miracle worker seating. And then there's Warden and Okinawa, which weren't bad, but they didn't feel anything particularly special. Like, yeah, Warden was a double temporal ship, which that's not bad, but I feel like part of it is that Warden didn't have that nostalgia hook that any of the other ships had here. This is a Star Trek Online original. It was released with the Agents of Yesterday expansion. It was one of those TOS ships that they released back in the day. So the original version of this one too was also a temporal ship. So it's just like, okay, great. We have a slightly better version of the original one, which is nice when it happens when it's a ship you like, but I haven't seen a lot of people chomping at the bit for a new version of the Ranger of all ships. And yeah, it's got the Hellbore trait, which is, really good right now, but there's no guarantee it's going to be sticking that way in the future, because we know that's going to get tuned down at some point in the future. And then there's Okinawa, which is interesting, but at the same time is just like, yeah, it's another pilot raider, but we've already got quite a few different raiders and pilot ships in the C-Store already. Like if it became between the choice between like this or the Eagle or the Adamant, I would absolutely choose either the Eagle or the Adamant over this thing, because those don't suffer from double pilot seating, whereas this one does. And as I said, Okinawa has a neat console, but the problem with it is that its projectiles are so easily destroyed. It's no fun when you go through the trouble of activating your console, seeing the projectiles go off, but then watching them get destroyed so easily. That's not a fun mechanic. That's no fun. So why would I bother using that? Why would I bother using that console? Let's talk about the bundle exclusives too. I know the ships themselves are going to be the main selling point for any of these bundles, but I feel like the exclusives are at least worth talking about. With Timeless Legacy, we got a new costume, which was the Starfleet cadet uniform from the Wrath of Khan, which was also used as an NCO uniform in Star Trek 6, which, I mean, it's neat. It's a new costume, but, not a lot of people are wanting to run around as a cadet on their main character. And some people are probably going to want to put this on their bridge officers, and then that's probably about it. The EV suit, which is from Star Trek's 1 and 2, it's cool looking. Doesn't have anything particularly special about it besides the special like hand scanner ability, which is kind of neat, but it's not anything super powerful. It's neat, but it's ground Barbie. That's all it really is. It's just something to add a little more flavor to the bundle, and that's about it. If you're really wanting to dive more into that Wrath of Khan era type space Barbie, yeah, it might be worth it to you, but I feel like a lot of people really aren't going to give much of a crap about it. You also got the SETI Alpha 5 Eel kit module, which I've been having fun with. I do enjoy it, but it fits a playstyle that I like. It's a pet that you can summon that will confuse and placate enemies and effectively turn them against your other enemies. So you could argue that it's a pet that will turn enemies into other pets, which is a playstyle I enjoy, but not a lot of people are into it. Especially those of you who are into the real high-end DPS stuff on ground, you're probably not going to give a crap about this kit module, but I enjoyed it. And then there's the usual fluff of T6 coupon, T6X tokens, ship slots, and 100 low-buy, which actually 100 low-buy, that wasn't in Heritage. Heritage didn't come with low-buy. It just came with the ship slots, the tier 6 coupon, and the T6X upgrades, enough for all 3 ships. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I feel like the extra stuff with Heritage was a bit more valuable. You got the Valor fighters, which actually do pretty decent damage. Though at the same time, everything pets wise is going to be outshined by the Type 7 shuttles. But these were still really really nice pets, and it also helped that they were thematically they thematically fit with the Typhon as well, because they were also from Star Trek Invasion. You also got they were marketing it as the Elite Force phaser rifle, but it's literally just the phaser rifle from Star Trek Nemesis. This rifle was admittedly also in Star Trek Elite Force 2, but it wasn't an original rifle to Elite Force 2. It was just based off of the rifle from Star Trek Nemesis. So I felt like it was weird to market this as an Elite Force rifle when there are so many other weapons from both Elite Force 1 and 2 that are so much more recognizable from those games than just this one. I feel like they should have just called this the Nemesis rifle or something like that. This one also came with a bunch of titles. You got Armada Admiral, Dominion Warrior, Herc Invader, which, you know, those are okay. Again, they relate thematically to the ships in the bundle, or rather to the original games that these ships came from. But yeah, titles really aren't that big of a deal. But I feel like the fighter pets on this new carrier, I feel like that was the big pull there. Typhon was really good for either a carrier build or a torpedo build with heavy emphasis on pets. And the premonition is also a solid science vessel, being a temporal spearhead. So yeah, these were all like solid ships on their own that came with some really good stuff that was really useful to have for various different build types, whereas Timeless didn't really come with anything that special. And the one special thing it did come with is broken as hell, and it's probably going to be rendered not that special in some time in the near future. I also want to talk about the marketing strategy here, because while it was similar, Heritage Starship Bundle definitely did something a bit different than we got with Timeless Legacy, because with both of these bundles, we got a really cool cinematic trailer to coincide with the launch, which I've been really enjoying those. I love it when they have the time to do that kind of stuff. They've been really cool to see. I have a lot of fun doing the reaction videos to those. I really like that. But with Timeless Legacy, we just, they dropped the trailer and then dropped the bundle on the day 1 release date, and then boom, there it was. There was no build up or anything. Whereas with the Heritage Starship bundle, in the weeks leading up to the release of the Heritage Starship bundle, they were releasing teasers onto Twitter, kind of giving subtle or rather not so subtle hints as to what ships we were getting from. Those teasers came in the form of like modified Star Trek Online images to be made more reminiscent of screenshots you would have seen in the games that these ships originally came from. So in some ways, it kind of spoiled the surprise, but it also generated a lot of hype for these ships. And I feel like that hype was something that was really missing with the Timeless Legacy bundle, because it was just kind of like, all right, there it is. Now go get it. And it's just like, well, like, wait, what's in it? What's in there? Why do we want this? What's it like? And it's just like, oh, there was no build up to it. It was just kind of like drop and go. And it's like, I don't know. And that's something they've been doing a lot with Star Trek Online. Like they did the same thing with the 15th anniversary bundle. It was just drop and go. Every release since Deca's taken over, it's just been, they drop it on the day of. And I don't know. It's something I've commented on before that I don't like. I think it's kind of frustrating. I feel like they need to be going out of the way to generating more hype to these releases to get people excited for them. But it's just like, they don't seem to want to. And I'm sure there must be a reason for that. It's just, I don't get why, and it frustrates me. So going back to the topic of the whole double seating issue, like I said, Proxima had double Miracle Worker, Okinawa had double Pilot, the Warden had double Temporal, and this was also something that we got with Heritage too. Achilles had double Miracle Worker, Typhon had double command and the Premonition had double temporal. And it's a weird thing that they're still doing all these things, because ships with too much of the same spec sheet generally aren't considered to be that good, because there are only so many useful abilities out of any specialization, and a lot of the abilities that are useful are generally useful for different build types. So you're only going to be using so much spec seating on one ship at a time. So doubling up those spec seats is just, it's a lot. It's too much of that same spec seating, so you're not going to end up using it in a lot of cases. I think the only exception that I can think of is command, and that's only because a lot of the better command abilities are in the lieutenant commander seat or higher. So in some special cases, you sometimes want to have both a commander and a lieutenant commander command seat just to get more access to those higher level abilities. But that's really about it. Even then, so a lot of players would still probably prefer to have the a secondary seat of something else like intel or temporal. It's weird that they insist on continuing to do this for these summer bundles specifically, because they don't do that with any of the other ships anymore. Like they don't do that with the anniversary ships anymore. Like all of these ships had mixed spec seating on every single ship. Like Shangri-La was command pilot. What was Pioneer? Pioneer was pilot with what was it? Pioneer was pilot miracle worker. Arc Royal was intel temporal. And then Kerala was, what was Kerala? Kerala was temporal command. That was Kerala. And then of course the bundle also came with Theseus, which Theseus is miracle worker temporal. So you got mixed seating on all 5 ships from this bundle. But the main reason why it's weird that they're still doing it on these summer bundle ships is that they're not even doing this on event ships anymore. Like event ships used to always have like the most basic spec seating, so much so that they weren't even full spec. But that's something that's changed in recent years. And it's weird that even the free event ships that they're willing to give them mixed specialization seating, but they're still not willing to do that for the summer bundle ships. So it's just like, it's what's the point of that? If they're not willing to, if they're okay with not holding back the anniversary ships and the event ships in that way, why are they still doing it for the summer bundle ships? It makes no sense to me. But yeah, that's kind of where that rant ends. I really don't know where else to go with this other than, yeah, the double spec seating. It is a trope on these summer bundles that I really wish they would stop doing, because all it's doing is holding these ships back. Heritage was a unique exception. These ships actually ended up with fairly decent stats, and it also helped that these ships not only came with some really great either consoles or traits and stuff like that, but it also helped that there was a lot of nostalgia around these ships. And while I think there was plenty of nostalgia around at least 2 of these Timeless Legacy bundle ships, but the consoles and traits on these things just don't really live up to the bar that was set by Heritage, nor do their ship stats either. So yeah, I don't think there's really anything else for me to say on this topic. So let me know what you can think about all this down below in the comments. And while you're down there, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to further support the channel, become a channel member, check out the merch store, check out the affiliate links in the pinned comment. If you're ever shopping on the Epic Games Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. Any of these really help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Either way, though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time. Sovok, I swear, you interrupt me one more time, I'm going to pull your ears off and feed them to you.